Here we go. It's Name That Player time. I'm fired up. Last one of the season. And Pete can try and get one more win, or Heath will continue his domination of everybody's favorite game. Let's take one more look at the scoreboard here as we show you the beatdown that has been going on all time. 37-4-3 for Heath. Although Pete has had a little bit of a run lately. We'll see how he does to close out 2020. As you see, though, for the season, 9-4-1 and 61-44.
I'm building to something. What did I win last year? 1?
I think so.
Okay, so now I got 4.
0.
0. Okay, so this is a young team growing, and next year we're going to be a playoff team.
You the Jets? Jaguars?
No, we're the Dolphins.
Dolphins, okay.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround. All right, let's get right to it. Here we go. Quarterback A for Pete Prisco. Clue number 1. His opponent this week gave him his first loss with his current team. Clue number 2. Some thought his number 1 wide receiver was too old, but he's finished the season strong. And clue number 3. He's not a Pro Bowl quarterback this year, but in his career, he has almost as many Pro Bowls as he does children.
Phillip Rivers.
How many children does he have?
9.
How many Pro Bowls has he made?
8.
Very good. Good job. Who's his old receiver?
The guy you abused in the opener and mushed the kid.
That's right.
T.Y. Hilton.
I said T.Y. Hilton.
In our preseason, I got to tell people, because on our preseason FFT, we had T.Y. Hilton on, and you asked him how old about being so old, and you said it about 8 times. Old.
Yes.
And he's played like he's old.
Yes, but unlike you, he's rebounded. So
he has rebounded.
We'll see how he finishes the season. Like him for this week. All right, we'll talk about Rivers in a second. All right, Heath, you're down 1-0. See how you do now. Your turn. Quarterback B. Here we go. Clue number 1. His team is under 500 for the season, but he's 4-4 as a starter heading into Week 17. Clue number 2. He could have 3 top 30 fantasy wide receivers this week if things go right. And clue number 3. If his team makes it into the playoffs, then he could win his first ever playoff game.
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton, who is 4-4 as a starter, could be 5-4 if the Cowboys win this week and the Washington football team loses, then he gets into playoffs. So, Keith, I'll ask you, which fantasy option do you like better? Rivers taking on the Jaguars, Dalton taking on the Giants?
I will go with Rivers, if for no other reason than he has a much better matchup. This Jacksonville defense has been absolutely terrible against the pass. The Giants defense kind of up and down, but they are a much better defense than Jacksonville, so I'll take Rivers.
Pete, let me ask you quickly. If the Colts lose, is Rivers back next year?
I think that's going to be his decision. I don't know if he wants to play again. If he wants to play again, I think he comes back. He's played pretty good football for them.
Yep.
So, it's all about whether he wants to come back or not.
All right, so we'll find out what happens. Colts still alive, obviously, for not just the wild card, but can win the division if the Titans lose to the Texans. All right, let's go to the running backs. Heath Cummings, you're up first. Clue number 1, here we go. He's been his team starter for most of this year because 2 other guys are hurt. Clue number 2. He went to a college at a team that is still alive for the national championship this year. And clue number 3, with a win this weekend and a loss by another team, he would make the playoffs and host a playoff game.
Wayne Gallman.
Very well done.
Clemson.
Very good. That was our replacement. We were going to go with Michael Pirine as the guy for Heath Cummings, but we had to make a last-minute swap after Pirine was placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. All right, we'll talk about Gallman in a second. Let's go now to running back B. Pete Prisco, you are down 2-1, a position you are very familiar with, trailing in this game. Here we go. Clue number 1. He could be the featured back for the first time all season in Week 17. Clue number 2. His team could miss the playoffs after recently suffering arguably the worst loss of the season for any NFL team. And clue number 3, he has a new quarterback this week that will hopefully give him a thumbs up with his performance. Malcolm Brown. Thumbs up.
I got it. I had a
quarterback.
But
he doesn't have.
But I've done that before where I've jumped the gun on the 2 clues. I wanted to see the third one, too. So you didn't throw me off.
So you got Wayne Gallman and Malcolm Brown. Gallman taking on a Cowboys defense that's been better against the run, but hasn't been great all season. And Malcolm Brown with this great opportunity. Pete, which running back will be better in Week 17?
I'll say Malcolm Brown. And I'm a little scared because I want to see how Arizona plays it with a John Wolford at quarterback. You just load up to stop the run and dare the kid to beat you. But I think Sean McVay will find ways to get Malcolm Brown running the football. So I'll lean to Malcolm Brown.
I'm going to lean toward Malcolm Brown as well, but I do think Wayne Gallman has a chance to bounce back after 3 disappointing performances because the Cowboys do give up touchdowns to running backs. They've allowed 6 touchdowns to running backs in their last 4 games. So hopefully Gallman gets back in the end zone like we saw earlier this season. All right, we're at 2-2. Let's go now to the wide receivers. Pete Prisco, you were up first. Here we go. Clue number 1. He was initially recruited to play quarterback in college, and based on his team's quarterback situation, maybe he should take some snaps under center. Clue number 2. Due to injury to his team's number 1 wide receiver, he's going to lead his team in receptions this year. And clue number 3. He's only 2 years into his career, but he's already caught passes from 2 NFL MVPs.
Oh, my gosh.
Need an answer. 3, 2,
No idea.
1. Heath, for the steal?
Yeah, I really don't know either. I'll throw a name out there. No, I don't have it.
Jacoby Myers, who was
wow.
recruited to play
Yeah,
quarterback
at
at
NC
NC State,
yeah.
and he's caught passes from Tom Brady and Cam Newton, an NFL MVP.
You forget that Cam Newton was an MVP. That's the problem with that clue.
All right, so we'll hold on to that one, and let's get to our next wide receiver. Heath Cummings, this one's for you. Clue number 1. He could be the number 1 wide receiver on his team for the 2nd week in a row due to injury. Clue number 2. In college, he was never the number 1 wide receiver on his team because he played behind Amari Cooper and Calvin Ridley. And clue number 3, his quarterback has been among the best surprises this season and has his team on the verge of the playoffs with a win in Week 17. Need an answer.
Rashard Higgins.
Not Rashard Higgins.
It's, God, I'm so blanking on this. And I know it, too. This
For
is
the
gonna,
steal, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Give me a name.
Don't have one.
Cam Sims.
Yep.
From the University of Alabama, who was never really a big-time player at Alabama, but has 17 targets his last 2 weeks. Terry McLaurin has not played last week, and we'll see how Sims does.
You know what threw me off? You said receiver. He dropped so many passes.
He
I
does
forget
drop
that
a lot
he's
of
a
passes.
receiver.
All right, so Heath, assuming there is no Terry McLaurin, both guys with great matchups, who would you prefer? And let's assume that Alex Smith starts. He did speak to the media on Wednesday, so that's a good sign that he's going to play this week.
Yeah, I'll go with Jacoby Myers. I think that matchup's just a little bit better for the Jets, and that's really, I mean, he's at least done a little bit more than Sims has this year.
All right, so you're going to go with Myers. I think it's close. I do
It
think
is
that
close.
if you are stuck this week, you could look at Cam Sims as a desperation play.
Can
It
we-
certainly
can
could be
we
somebody in the showdown
Preface
as
it
well.
by saying there's not going to be any drops for Cam Sims, because if that's the case, then he probably have to.
Yeah, but if he has Cam Newton, there's going to be a lot of skip passes coming his direction for Jacoby Myers, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so we're at 2-2. Let's see how we go with the tight ends here. Otherwise, we might have to go to the tiebreaker. Here we go. Heath Cummings, you're up. Tight end number 1. Clue number 1 for tight end A. In his 3rd season in the NFL, he's going to finish as a top 10 PPR tight end for the first time in his career. He was number 12 last year. Clue number 2. We're not sure who his quarterback is going to be for the entire game this week. And clue number 3. With a win, his team will make the playoffs, but not many people expected that given how 2019 went for them. Need an answer. 3.
Oh, man. Jonnu
2.
Smith.
Not Jonnu Smith.
Mike
Pete Prisco
Gesicki.
for the steal. Mike Gesicki. Very well done. Yes, 2019 was not good, and now 2020 has been much better. And as we know, we don't know who the quarterback is going to be for the entire game. Could be Ryan Fitzpatrick. All right.
You're out. You're in. You're out. You're in. You're out.
Pete Prisco, you're up 3-2. You get this, you win. Heath, you got to get the steal to tie, and then we go to the tiebreaker. Here we go. Tight end B, clue number 1. His father played tight end for the Saints, the 49ers, and the Browns.
Irv Smith.
Wow.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Didn't even need the other clues.
Yo.
Wow, Irv Smith. You knew that already,
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's news to me. So, yeah, his father played for the Saints, 49ers, and Browns, and he's getting an opportunity with Kyle Rudolph not playing. So we got Irv Smith, we got Mike Gesicki. Heath, I'm going to come to you on this while Pete decides how he's going to peacock around the studio. But Mike Gesicki taking on the Bills. They're a much different defense when they're healthy. Or Irv Smith taking on the Lions. Great opportunity for him once again.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Gesicki, but I like both guys as top 12 options. And before Pete gets a chance to gloat, and I just want to tell you, Jamie, you did a fantastic job hosting this year.
Thank you.
This was a much more competitive season than we've had seasons in the past, and a really nice job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Really?
Thank
and
you.
you know what? Your clues were better. They weren't slanted to Heath like they were a year ago, so it made it much more competitive. Look, I think
we're saying the same thing, Pete.
I take it 1 week at a time, Heath. And you know what? In coach speak, these are the kind of things that will carry over the entire offseason on into next year. I feel good about myself. I know you don't, but I feel really good about myself. See you in September, buddy.
You know, it's a little disappointing that we didn't get to the tiebreaker, because I didn't know that we were going to have a Jaguars topic in the news block. So I had Gardner Minshew as the tiebreaker. I thought it was only fitting. That could be the last time that we talk about Gardner
Who's a stiff quarterback? Gardner Minshew.
But great job by both of you. It was fun doing Name That Player all season. I look forward to doing it in 2021 as well. Congratulations, Pete, on getting the victory to close out the season. Congratulations, Heath, on getting the season victory. Confetti for both of you as a job.
It's a fun game.
Job well done. It's one of the most fun things we do here on Fantasy Football Today. All right, we're going to say goodbye to Pete. Any last words on your way out?
No, I mean, it's going to carry me on into September. Can't wait to see you in September, Heath.
All right, so Pete Briscoe's going to take a hiatus here, and Adam Major's going to join us. When we come back, we're going to take a look at our top 12 wide receivers for 2021. Already looking ahead to get your fantasy football mind in the right spot with guys like Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, and Kenny Golladay. Stay right here to Fantasy Football Today. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie. That's Heath. Joining us now, it's our buddy Adam Mazer, and we're doing a look ahead to the 2021 wide receiver rankings for PPR. We've been doing this all week. Monday was quarterbacks, Tuesday running backs. Tomorrow will be tight ends, and we'll give you our top 24 overall for 2021. But now it's the guys that catch passes, and this is a fun list of wide receivers that we're already starting to target in our drafts once we get to 2021. So let's show you the list of all three of us. You can see the full list of all of our rankings. We'll have the stories up next week once the regular season wraps up for the NFL. But here's Heath's 2021 wide receivers. And you're going to see a lot of similar names for all of us. The order will be different, but Davante Adams has clearly earned the right to be the number one wide receiver based on what he's accomplished in 2020. Tyreek Hill, number 2. Stefon Diggs, number 3 for Heath. You can see the rest of this list. The one that may stand out to you could be Julio Jones at number 12. He's still going with the old man and hoping he can deliver one more solid performance next season. Adam's top 12 list. Again, some similar names here as you might expect because a lot of great wide receivers at the top. Interesting that he has DK Metcalf over Stefon Diggs. We'll talk about that in a second. And again, for Adam, also Julio Jones on his list, but he has Kenny Golladay on his list as well. That's another topic that we'll get into once we start to break down these wide receivers. And then for me, again, very similar group of names there. I think the one thing that Adam and I have that Heath doesn't, which we'll talk about, is Keenan Allen ranked in our top 10. Hopefully he will have another strong performance with his sophomore quarterback next year in Justin Herbert. So let's get into some of the topics here about these lists. And the first one I think a lot of people are going to be curious about is Michael Thomas, because we had him pegged as the number one wide receiver coming into 2020. Injuries have clearly derailed that. And he also lost his quarterback for a brief portion of the season with Drew Brees dealing with the rib injury. We don't know if Brees is going to be back next year, but obviously Michael Thomas will be back with the Saints. Could be with Taysom Hill, could be with Jameis Winston, could be with a totally different quarterback. So, Adam, what's your faith in Michael Thomas? Can he bounce back and be a top 3 wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver, or could he completely fall off this list like we saw in 2020 due to injury and some poor quarterback play?
I don't think he can be the number 1 wide receiver if Taysom Hill is his quarterback. I think he's probably closer to 7 to 10. I have him outside the top 5 right now, with the thought that Taysom Hill will be the quarterback and Drew Brees will retire. If Drew Brees comes back, I don't see why he can't be the number 1 wide receiver. I know he had a bunch of targets in 2019, over 180, but even if he had same efficiency at about 150 targets, you're still talking about a guy that's finishing top 5 in PPR every year, top 3 in PPR 3 of the last 4 years, with his 2019 efficiency on 150 targets. So I don't think that 2019 was a fluke or anything like that. I think it was better than what we would expect, because we wouldn't expect that many targets. But I'm pretty much willing to throw out this year and just say he's still one of the best wide receivers in football, and he's a PPR machine because he catches everything, and being the number one wide receiver is absolutely in play if Drew Brees is back.
Heath, you share that same sentiment, and where are you planning on drafting Michael Thomas overall in 2021?
I'm really uncomfortable with the ranking of Michael Thomas in almost every way, because it's not just the injuries, it's not just the suspension for punching someone. It wasn't Michael Thomas-like production this year, even when he played. He had 2 games with double-digit targets. He had 3 games with more than 51 receiving yards. His catch rate was excellent for anybody else, but at 73%, about a 10% discount from where he's been historically, and he's never been an elite touchdown guy. So if Drew Brees is gone, I was actually closer to having Michael Thomas outside of my top 12 than I was to number 1 overall.
And you actually have him the highest. You have him at 5. Adam has him at 7. I have him at 6. So not a slam dunk that he will be a top 5 wide receiver. So probably going to see him round 2, I think, in non-PPR, maybe the back end of round 1 in PPR, depending on how quickly wide receivers come off the board. But you're going to see, I think, once we get to our top 24 on Friday, very heavily slanted toward running backs based on how these guys could perform coming off their 2020 campaigns. All right, next topic here. Heath, I'm going to ask you about this one. Calvin Ridley over Julio Jones. So the torch has officially been passed. We're going with Calvin Ridley as the top wide receiver for the Falcons moving forward.
The thing that sealed it for me was seeing Calvin Ridley excel without Michael Thomas. He was averaging over 90 yards per game with Julio Jones. Julio Jones goes out. He hasn't really missed a beat. In fact, other than touchdowns, he's maybe been just a little bit better. Calvin Ridley has shown us that he has the ability, whether Julio's there or not, to be a number 1 wide receiver. Assuming Julio Jones plays 16 games next year, I may be just a little bit too high on Ridley, but he has been better ever since he joined the Falcons at getting into the end zone than Julio Jones. He has a very rare breed this year, more than 130 targets, yet an average depth of target over 15. You don't see that in the NFL. No one else was anywhere close. He could be the number 1 wide receiver next year.
Adam, does that change for you if Matt Ryan is no longer the quarterback? We know there is a potential story of the Falcons as they're cleaning house with their front office and coaching staff that they may move on from Matt Ryan if, in fact, that's the direction they decide to go. Would that change things for you on both of these guys?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would. Look, the Panthers changed quarterbacks. They went to a much more conservative guy in Teddy Bridgewater, and DJ Moore still had a really good year. The Saints changed quarterbacks midseason due to injury, and, the production wasn't quite as good for Michael Thomas compared to what we usually see from him with Drew Brees. Same thing happened last year with Drew Brees. You just don't know how it's going to turn out. But I think the bottom line is the great receivers are still going to put up numbers almost any time, no matter who their quarterback is, unless it's Brock Osweiler. So if they bring in Osweiler, Jeremy, I will not have him in my top 20. If they bring in a fairly competent quarterback, I still think that you're talking about top 12 receivers, but I don't think I could rank Ridley in the top 5.
All right, hopefully Matt Ryan is there and can give these two guys another season of greatness for fantasy production. As you see, we're very excited about the Falcons, these two guys having Julio Jones still in their top 12. Adam, great call by you at the start of the season to say Justin Jefferson was going to have a standout rookie season, and he certainly did, and has passed Adam Thielen in terms of what the fantasy production could be going forward. So based on the rankings so far, you see we have Justin Jefferson over Adam Thielen. Tell us why.
Well, I just think you have to at this point. The Saints treated him that way last week when they put Marshawn Lattimore on him. I think it's obvious he's the best wide receiver, and just his pace right now, he's going to play one more game, and if he stays on this pace, he's going to finish with 1,351 yards. If he can do that, he's going to have the most receiving yards by a rookie since Anquan Boldin in 2003. He's going to have more receiving yards than Randy Moss in his rookie season. Justin Jefferson is having one of the best rookie seasons ever for a wide receiver. Based on that, we might be looking at one of the best wide receivers in football. We have to be aware of just how great Justin Jefferson has been. One thing that concerns me, Minnesota is currently 6th in the NFL, 6th fewest in the NFL in pass attempts. Very hard to finish as a top 12 wide receiver if your team is that low. He's on pace to do it, so I'd love to see them throw more, but this guy is awesome, and he's having an historic rookie season. I see no reason why he's not going to have a great career.
We have seen them throw the ball a little bit more as the season's gone on, and we'll see what the defense looks like. They're going to get some guys back. Danielle Hunter, for example, will help their pass rush. Secondary will get a little bit older, so maybe Mike Zimmer, could go either way. If the defense is still bad and they have to rely on their offense a little bit more, maybe that helps Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. But if the defense gets better, he could be a little bit more conservative, but obviously a lot to like about what Justin Jefferson could become and has already showed us in the 2020 campaign. All right, Heath, why no Keenan Allen in your top 12? What's the hesitation knowing that he actually had a great year for a guy that we kind of wrote off, not knowing what Justin Herbert would become, how many games Tyrod Taylor would start? But Keenan Allen, unfortunately, not finishing the season strong because of injury, but for the most part, it's been a very good fantasy option in 2020.
Yeah, it was nothing really against Keenan Allen. I just had a hard time getting him in there. I really struggled with 11 and 12 spots in my rankings, and we're at the stage where we may expect to start seeing a little bit of a decline from Keenan Allen. Not a lot. There's some uncertainty about who the coaching staff's going to be, what type of offense they're going to run. It worked out really well for everyone on the Chargers this year, not just because Justin Herbert was so good, but they ran an incredible number of plays, averaging 71 offensive plays per game. That's probably not something you can expect. And so we may see, if Hunter Henry's back, if Austin Eckler's there, if Mike Williams is still there, that the target pace that Allen saw without Austin Eckler is not quite that high in 2021.
All right, Adam, defend Keenan Allen in the top 10 for you.
Well, he wouldn't be in the top 10 in non-PPR. Right now, on a per-game basis, he's 15th in non-PPR, and he's 7th in PPR. And that's usually going to be the case with him. He's a great route runner. He gets open. He makes a lot of catches, and he's very safe in PPR. Look, this is really just buying into Justin Herbert as well, okay? You're talking about the number one wide receiver for a rookie quarterback who was outstanding this year. And you've seen Keenan Allen's numbers fall off a little bit late in the season, even before the game that he barely played a couple weeks ago. And Justin Herbert wasn't playing as well. But I have a lot of faith in Justin Herbert. I think he looks like a star, and I think Keenan Allen is, without question, his number one wide receiver. So I'm very optimistic for the outlook for him, and I guess I'm just mad at myself for doubting him as much as I did this year. And in PPR, he feels like a safe top 12 guy, and that's why I have him 8th.
Yeah, you're not alone in doubting him. I think we kind of just doubted the quarterback situation with Justin Herbert being as great as he was. It really wasn't a doubting of Keenan Allen, at least for me. It was more of a doubting that Justin Herbert would be this and how many games would he start in terms of what the split would be with Tyrod Taylor as well. All right, Adam, you got Kenny Golladay in your top 12. You're just going to go right back to him knowing that this year has just been plagued by injuries. The hip injuries kept him out really the entire season. Yeah,
you could put Allen Robinson there. You could put Mike Evans there. There are a bunch of candidates. I have him 12th. But he played 4 games. He played a 5th. He left it early. But he played those 4 games, and he was really good in them. So I have no reason to doubt him. He's a young player. He's on the rise. Just stay healthy, and he's going to be really good.
And we'll find out if Matthew Stafford is back for the Lions. That's a big part of, obviously, what's going to be the case for Kenny Golladay as well. But, yeah, I think he's going to be one of the better bounce-back candidates in 2021 as long as he could stay healthy, and contract situation at play for him as well. Something to keep an eye on this offseason. All right, there's your look at the 2021 top 12 wide receivers for Heath Cummings, Adam Mazer, and myself. We'll have a lot more conversations about that position and more throughout the course of the offseason. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, going to get a look at the roster trends from the moves you made on Tuesday night. Also catch you up on some of the injuries from Wednesday. But A.J. Dillon could be popular heading into Week 17. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie. That's Heath. That's Adam. Wrapping up our show here, just a couple news items from some of the practice reports that we're already getting. Kyler Murray is expected to practice on Wednesday, so expect to see him for the Cardinals in Week 17 against the Rams. A lot of practice news coming out of Carolina. Christian McCaffrey, red non-contact jersey. Not expect to see him in Week 17. Robbie Anderson also in a red non-contact jersey, so keep an eye on that if you're planning on starting any of the Panthers wide receivers. And this one's a little interesting. Mike Davis was spotted in a walking boot, did not practice on Wednesday, so the Panthers may not have him either. Could be looking at Rodney Smith and maybe Curtis Samuel leading that backfield as they take on the Saints. Frank Reich saying that left tackle Anthony Costanzo is going to be done for the season, having surgery on his ankle, so no left tackle for the Colts in their big game against the Jaguars. And J.K. Dobbins says that his chest injury that forced him to leave the game against the Giants in Week 16 should be okay. He's expected to play in Week 17 as the Ravens are in a must-win game against the Bengals. All right, you made some moves on Tuesday night. For those of you playing in Week 17, here's the roster trends, looking at the most added players on CBSSports.com leagues. And the name that stands out the most to me, aside from the guys that we have already talked about, is A.J. Dillon. Malcolm Brown, we told you, expected to have a lead role with the Rams dealing with their running back injuries, Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. Irv Smith, part of Name That Player, could have good opportunity as well. But A.J. Dillon being added could have a good opportunity if there's no Jamal Williams dealing with that quad injury. So, Adam, what do you think about A.J. Dillon as the complementary option for Aaron Jones in a big game against the Bears? Packers need to win to lock up the 1 seed in the NFC.
I don't think too much of him right now. I could see him having a good game. They're 5.5-point favorites, and if there's some garbage time, maybe he gets in there. But they'll mix him in. I don't think we're getting more than 8 to 10 carries. That's my guess, unless Aaron Jones really just isn't that healthy. That's the X factor. I don't know how healthy Aaron Jones is. I know he's been kind of nursing an injury, but I don't want to start A.J. Dillon. I think it's too risky. The run defense is going to be much better this week than it was last week.
Heath, give me your opinion on A.J. Dillon, comparing him to the Jets running back situation. Let's assume it's Ty Johnson. The Vikings running back situation. I know we had some debate about who it could be, but let's say it's Alexander Mattison. Where does Dillon kind of stock up compared to, or stack up next to those guys in terms of a starting desperation play for fantasy managers this week?
Right behind those guys. He's a good flex with upside, but there's not a lot of floor there. I would prefer the guys that we expect to get more touches.
All right. So again, the news of the day: Dalvin Cook not going to play in Week 17 because of the passing of his father. Again, our thoughts and prayers out to him, excuse me, and his family. And LaMichael Pirine not going to play. He's been placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. So keep an eye on those running back situations and who the replacement options will be for the Vikings and the Jets, respectively. And obviously now with the Panthers running back situation with Mike Davis in a walking boot and Christian McCaffrey not expected to go. All right, great job, Adam. Great job, Heath. Thanks to Pete Prisco as well. I'm Jamie Eisenberg. Thanks for watching Fantasy Football Today.